Hello and welcome back to the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast with me, your host Ryan, the founder of Rocket SaaS, and today I am in the studio with a very special guest, Sam Gocher. Hello.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Sam's recently joined Rocket SaaS as head of content. We've been doing a lot of content in-house for Rocket SaaS. It's like been falling on me, but we've recently decided to really take content seriously and really invest in it. So thought we'd bring in Sam, who,
really happy to be here.
Who is one of the best SaaS marketing content people in the business. But yeah, tell us why you're one of the best in the business. Where have you come from?
Well, to be honest, just to give you a brief overview, got into content marketing a few years ago, knew it was where I really wanted to be, did all the classic stuff, small sort of teams, SEO and regular sort of content marketing like that. But everything changed for me when I went to Cognism. Even though I was only there myself for a year before coming over to Rocket SaaS, I learned so much, and I'm sure we'll delve into that now.
Yeah, nice. Well, as most of the listeners of the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast know, we love Cognism. Cognism had one of the greatest growth stories in the whole of B2B SaaS and were the pioneers of demand generation, something that I've always massively admired, hence why we've employed a lot of ex-Cognism employees like yourself. So, I mean, one of the key elements of Cognism's growth was what you guys did with the content side of things. So a lot of SaaS businesses, it can be quite dry, quite dull in terms of content creation. So many other industries, like even my business is a marketing agency, or even hardware businesses like Apple, or retail businesses. Lots of industries have so much exciting, juicy content to get stuck into. But SaaS companies, it can be a bit dry sometimes. So even like Cognism, where you came from, on the surface, it's pretty boring in terms of like, it's just data. It's just providing names and email addresses and phone numbers and those kinds of things. And there's lots of their competitors where it is pretty dry from a content marketing point of view. But I think one of the reasons why Cognism scaled so fast is because you made the brand with the content, with the whole demand gen side of things, and obviously ads plays a key role in that. But that whole like ecosystem, which content was like the main pillar, you made it cool. And I know a lot of our listeners, a lot of our watchers that have SaaS platforms and they're trying to create content are probably struggling with similar things. Like, how do we make cool, interesting, engaging, entertaining content that can go viral, that can just really get a lot of engagement and people flowing through the funnel? How do you do that for a brand that is, maybe the content is a little bit dry? So how do you guys tackle that?
So at Cognism, something that was really, really important for us was understanding our ICP. And when I was at the business, the ICP was sales, marketing, and RevOps professionals, and our content's focus was on the end user. Now, this was great for us because the end user was often SDRs, so traditionally they're younger, often a mix of gender, but generally the younger people like the more fun and interesting content. So that opened us up, and that really gave us the opportunity to be a little bit more out there, a little bit more eye-catching and engaging with our content. When I joined, there was already a content stream in flow. So I joined the demand generation content team, and we knocked out the classic things like blogs. We had a YouTube channel, and all of the classic things that I'm sure your listeners already know are great channels to have, basically from everything that you've been speaking about before. But something that really made us stand out was being given the freedom to create content that was a little bit more out there, a little bit less safe. So an example that I bring up is we had these GTM plays, they were called. So they were otherwise known as cheat codes, long written pieces. And we basically made videos to accompany these, videos that we wanted to perform well on social. And because we wanted them to perform well, they were more on that kind of tofu, top of funnel level, with a mixing in the product where possible. So we kind of made these videos across the full funnel. And to quickly touch on them, they were kind of those, I don't know if you've ever seen them, those kind of gaming style videos, GTA, cameras behind the characters running around. This is what I mean when I say we were a bit more out there with some of our content. And basically, the character who was an SDR was running around trying to figure out how to get, say, leads, which is, obviously Cognism's a data provider. So it was a fun and interesting way to show how Cognism can actually show and provide very provide its information and data without just saying, oh, hi, yeah, we're Cognism, we're a data provider. I co-starred in some of those videos. And, those are the videos that just did really well organically on social. It created a buzz. It created, enhanced our LinkedIn personal brands, which I'm sure we're going to touch on soon. And it was just a very fun and interesting way to get that sort of discovery channel out there. And then what we started doing in some of those later videos is we began incorporating the product in there. So this could apply for a lot of SaaS products. The SDR was running around doing his thing, hooked the viewer in, fun and interesting video, want to see how it ends. And then the solution was the character, so that SDR jumping into Cognism, into the product, and then you've got like a mission complete type thing, just basically. I use this example because it was a way for us to jump on a trend. People on TikTok were just doing it in their own time. It was a very good way for B2B to just jump on those trends. We put them out on TikTok. We put them out on LinkedIn as well, both on the company page and the personal pages. And it was just a fantastic way, and something that was just so brand new to me in terms of just raising awareness.
So what I think I'm taking from that is that, so understanding your ICP with that particular campaign that you wanted to go after was essentially a young audience.
Exactly.
So you're targeting SDRs, which is often a young role. It's often the first job that people get out of uni. So you're literally targeting people that are in even their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And then as time moved on and strategy began to change at Cognism, we also started focusing on targeting decision makers. So these are often C-suite and that side of things as well. So I don't think, we all came to the conclusion very quickly that C-suite aren't going to want to be watching cheat code videos. They're probably not on TikTok because of their general, they might be slightly older than those SDRs. So we really needed to redefine some of the channels and some of the content we were creating to also target this C-suite level. Now, this is where we came across to more C-suite focused big rock pieces. So these were large written reports. I wrote one that was around the state of cold calling in 2026. So I wrote that one originally for that end user. So it was just the state of cold calling, and effectively was a very interesting way to show SDRs how they can get better results from their cold calling. When we made that switch to a more C-suite focused audience, I took all of that data that we'd gathered for the original report and translated it into something that the C-suite would be more interested in. So the way I translated it was originally the state of cold calling in 2026. I transferred it to whether AI is going to be able to take over your sales team. So if you see that transition, we used the same data. It was low lift to reversion this report. And effectively, we made a whole other report, but focused on a completely different demographic, a different audience. Yes, they were probably more senior sales people. And then it really, our paid team boosted it out and did all the targeting. But that was that's just a great example to show you how, if you've created one piece of content for another audience, it can be very easy to actually translate that, transform that piece into something that's going to be very beneficial for their leaders and their leaders' as well. So you're targeting two completely different demographics with one piece.
Yeah. Okay. So we're saying that everything points back to the ICP essentially.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we talk about that so much on the podcast. That if you don't understand your ICP, if you don't have a narrow ICP, if you're going too broad, too many job titles, too many industries,
Yes.
Too many geographies, company headcount size, it's really, really hard to create content that's going to get any kind of cut through. So narrowing down and really understanding who your audience is, and it's absolutely fine to have multiple audiences, like you just mentioned, the younger people that are doing SDRs, and then you've got the more senior people, the more decision makers. So if you do have that, you can't bung them all together into the same campaign. You need to create different campaigns for each of them. So in terms of going after the SDRs with that content creation thing, so these are younger people, they're, like I said, late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, targeting them on platforms like TikTok with these videos. So I imagine that got a lot of engagement. But obviously, a lot of these people are not the decision makers, not the people that hold the purse strings. So, I mean, how did you find that kind of turned into pipeline? Is it purely the strategy of referred to as influencers, not the influencers referred to on TikTok, but the influencers that can influence a deal? So, are you saying that was part of your strategy to understand that these people are not the people that hold the money and the budget, but they influence the deal? If they see us, if they like us, they could potentially go to C-suite or their managers and say, we should really get Cognism in here because I've been following them. I love what they do. I'd like to give it a go. Is that basically the strategy?
To be honest, as far as I understood it and as far as what I was working towards, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. So, and that is actually why we ended up changing to focus a bit more of our content on those decision makers, on that C-suite. Because if we were targeting the end user, and if we were also targeting the decision maker, then in an ideal world, both of those audiences are for sales, marketing, and RevOps. So quite a broad span. But both of those audiences are having Cognism content pushed onto their LinkedIn feed, Meta, but then obviously, that was more on the demand gen. That was more on the paid side. But we worked very, very closely in the demand generation content team. We worked very, very closely with those demand generation managers, the paid team, effectively to create the content that they wanted to push out to these audiences. Effectively, that's how we influenced pipeline. So those SDRs were going to the managers, and then the reason we then pushed into the managers was because the manager, we want the manager to then say, oh yeah, I've already heard of them. I already know what they're doing. I've already seen their stuff. I've seen this report. And then the SDR could say, oh yeah, I've seen a report as well. It's just getting those conversations. Whereas if you've just got the SDR saying, oh, have you heard of this? Maybe we should be using this. This is because they can do this. The manager might not be as easily influenced just by the SDR telling them, whereas if they're seeing content that's targeted at them, that was a winner.
Yeah, okay. So, and you found that humor, entertaining content, that was a brilliant top of funnel engagement play.
That was a winner. I mean,
it's hard to do.
It's tough. You've got to, I cringe easily.
it's so cringy. Yeah.
You have to turn it off. You have to switch off the cringe. Those GTA gaming videos that I filmed with my manager and also our video manager who was behind the camera, we just had to, you just have to switch it off. It's for the greater good. And then when you watch it back, you'll cringe, but do you want the pipeline? Effectively, yeah. So making people laugh, using humor in content, and taking content that you just see every day. So, I scroll LinkedIn, I scroll TikTok, I scroll Instagram in my spare time away from work. I see a video and think, why can't we do that for B2B? There's so many huge LinkedIn accounts out there. Naming one of them is, I want to say they're called Passion Fruit. They're a marketing agency, and they've created like Wolf of Wall Street and Gordon Ramsay skits, and the influence, the top of funnel influence that has even on LinkedIn alone is just massive.
Yeah, so I know what you mean. So it's really hard if you set out, I want to create humorous, entertaining content. If you go and sit in a meeting room with your co-founders and colleagues or marketing team, whatever, and go, right, what should we do that's funny? Like, none of you are comedians. So there's a high chance it's not going to be very funny. You may find it funny. It's like a bit of an in-joke, but when you go live with it on social media, it's going to bomb. But thankfully, social media is brilliant at just surfacing trends that you can just take inspiration from and just copy, essentially. So, there's all sorts of like meme formats and video trends, or like you said earlier, like recreating a famous movie scene or something. Like you see it happening all the time. Like there's always things like, I don't know, when a big event like the Olympics or the Oscars is hosted, there's always these kind of copycat like meme style videos that are coming off the back of it. So just jump on these trends, basically. You see these trends happening and then you apply it to your brand, your business, and that's the best chance of you kind of succeeding, because it's just jumping on these other trends. So is that probably the best way to do it?
I would say yes. And it's important to say that that's not all you do. So just because we were focusing on that younger audience, yes, it opened us up to these fun and interesting, attention capturing, top of funnel videos that someone might just stumble across on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. But we also created more serious content that an SDR could just, a blog, an SDR could just jump into and read. They might see it as an ad. They might see it as someone's personal brand linking from Cognism, linking through to that piece of content. But the beauty of Cognism and the beauty of the former CMO, Alice, who ironed it all out. She did an amazing job of the positioning. We had this content, and so it was the classic blogs. It was more about making it digestible, make it interesting, colourful within the brand guidelines. So you've got all that fun and interesting stuff, the funny stuff, but you also need to make your blogs readable. Something we saw great impact with was we began to reversion some of our top performing blogs into YouTube videos to gain a presence. And you've spoken about repurposing on this podcast so much. So how you repurpose this podcast, and then it goes into videos, it goes into loads of things, newsletters and so on. With those video reversions, not only did it help us grow a YouTube channel, and it was just sit down, talk to camera. We moved away from the GTA fun and interesting videos for those things. It was still interesting, but it was just our video manager sat talking to camera with some overlay. Classic YouTube, really, whenever you would watch a YouTube video. But that reversioning enabled us to grow a YouTube channel, and it also enabled us to, a little tip for all the listeners, embed those videos into the blogs that were reversioned. So when you've got someone who's found the blog, they can click into it, they can read the intro, and they can see the YouTube video embedded after, say, the first paragraph, which is you're giving the reader an opportunity to either keep reading or to sit and watch that embedded YouTube video. So there's a higher chance that you're going to increase the time on page there, which is one of the main metrics that we looked at on the website in the demand generation content team, because obviously it's the paid team marketing it. The paid team are pushing out the content. When we were doing our reporting, it was looking at, has our time on page gone up? And this is something I've incorporated more into the Rocket SaaS content strategy. Our time on page was sitting at around, when I first started, sitting at around 1.5 minutes average on the blogs, and those blogs are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute reads. So your target is to get that time on page up to show that content is being consumed. So even if you're a small team, that reversioning piece is major. So if we're talking to a founder or a marketing manager, the sole marketer in a business, you can create that one piece of content, as you've spoken about so many times before, and reversion it into a YouTube video, and then embed that YouTube video onto the blog. And that's just one thing that we found worked really, really well for us for that end user as well.
Yeah, nice. All right, well, let's talk about different types of content format. I'm also keen to probably talk a little bit more about what we feel can really attribute to pipeline, because I'm conscious that coming from a brand like Cognism, having these like huge marketing budgets in comparison to a lot of these kind of small B2B SaaS companies, it's probably not wise to invest in the kind of super entertaining, super high top of funnel content for the influencers rather than the decision makers, because if you've got a small budget, it should probably be going towards the more bottom of the funnel, like pipeline generating content. That stuff we've talked about there is more when you've got a kind of bigger budget that kind of goes into the more like tens of thousands of regions, in my opinion. So let's talk about at the bottom of the funnel content that really attributed to pipeline. What kind of really has worked for you in your career?
Well, it's really, really interesting you bring that up, because when I joined Cognism, we had a lot of content going out there. It was tofu, middle of funnel, but the bottom of the funnel in terms of demand generation content there was a little, a kind of a gap there. There was a lot of bottom of funnel SEO content that the SEO team had been working on, but because we were a completely different department, there was this gap. Now, I'm a huge advocate for video. It's an amazing way to influence, and it doesn't need to be high lift. I know as we've already touched on in this episode, people are a little bit scared to get in front of the camera, and it takes time. Of course it does. And it's better if you can get someone else to edit that video, because it's hard for you to watch yourself back and edit that and clip that up. But with AI tools like Wizard and things like that, it's great. It's great and easy to reversion and create those videos now. However, like I say, there was this gap at Cognism for bottom of funnel demand generation content. And so I went away and I created a bottom of funnel video content strategy. We knew that those SEO blogs were there, bottom of funnel blogs showing how Cognism worked, comparing Cognism with other competitors. Classic, all of our, competitors did those blogs as well, and we had to do the same, and we had to convince the audience. But in my role, it was more video. So I came up with 2 video concepts, not to give away all of Cognism's secrets, but effectively it's very, very hard and very, very challenging, and this is why we're talking about this, to show your product and make it interesting. So because Cognism's a data provider, we came up with this strategy to show people the data in an interesting way. So basically, we said, I've had a question come in from a sales manager. That's us pushing towards our ICP. I've had a question come in from our sales manager asking how many SDRs are there in France, because this audience might have been targeting France. And I said, on this video, I was there with my laptop, and I said, let me show you. And then we jumped into a screen share. These videos are literally about 2 minutes long, but it was a great way to hook at the start. The key to this content is hooking the audience. Instead of me sitting there saying, you can use Cognism to do this. No one cares. You're hooking the audience in. That audience wants to then find out how many SDRs there are in France, say, because it's of interest to them, and also they think to them, even if they're not a sales manager watching it, it's like, I'd like to know. That's very interesting. It'd just be a good fun fact.
Okay, so you're saying that you want to get a sales type video, bottom funnel video showing off the product in front of people, but if you just fire into the video going, here's our features, here are our benefits, people are going to watch it for about 2 seconds and switch off.
That's effectively it.
Instead, you start the video with a bit of a hook of something that people might be interested in, like a question, or like, how do you solve this problem, that kind of thing, or maybe something entertaining, and then you kind of elegantly dance it into the
by that point you've already hooked them, so you've got them interested, and then there's a much, much higher chance that they're just going to continue to watch, not even necessarily the rest of the whole video, but they might stay 30 seconds or a minute longer than they would have had you not hooked them effectively. And now if the audience listening or watching this podcast are thinking to themselves, right, well, how do I hook with how do I hook my product into this? It's not Cognism, it's not a data provider. The key, and something that Cognism used across, say, even the large scale reports we created, but for these Bofu videos specifically, it was effectively using the product. What's the niche of the product? What does your product actually do? What does it have? So because Cognism was a data provider, we had hundreds of thousands, millions of contact information that we knew that we had, and that's what made us niche. Yes, there's other data providers, but those other data providers didn't have exactly what we had. So that's where we found the niche, and that was when we asked the question, okay, so how can we showcase that? That's our niche. That's what makes us interesting. They could have gone to a competitor who would have had a Bofu video showing their data, but they wouldn't have had Cognism's data. That's how you find your niche, because someone will be listening to this podcast and they'll have 3 or 4 competitors that they're aware of, and they might be creating videos and they don't want to seem like they're copying. And like I say, it's always very important to have your own formats, have your own styles. But your one true niche is your product. It's what you can provide for the audience. And that's why we saw great success with these bottom of funnel videos, because we were showcasing that Cognism data, something that nobody else could do apart from us.
So the power of video. So I'm a big believer in the power of video. I imagine most people listening, watching to this, probably want to do more video, that they know how brilliant video can be across social media. It performs particularly well across LinkedIn. So a lot of businesses that I see just aren't doing it. They really want to, but they just haven't got maybe the person, the presenter. They're not really sure how to go about it, not sure what content to create. So if you were say a SaaS company, whether it's a marketer or a founder, and you feel like you want to do more video, where is generally a good place to start, would you say?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's ideally you have a studio and a video manager and a presenter and all this stuff, but that's unrealistic, as you say. My biggest piece of advice for this is just start doing it. Now that sounds, let me explain that, because that sounds, oh yeah, okay, I'll just start doing it. But really, even though Cognism, say, was a big company, hundreds of employees, we had a massive marketing team. Even though we had the resource and we had a huge team, a lot of our content ended up just being us talking into our phones, selfie video. Let's use an example of when we wrote one of our major outbound sales reports, let's say. We got salespeople internally in the team to just film a quick video talking about some of the stats from that report. Now, it wasn't just in our report, it was still relatively middle/top of funnel. It wasn't pure bottom of funnel, but there was a CTA, a call to action at the end of those videos. So what I did was I used an auto cue app. It was free up to 500 characters. And this is something a listener could jump on right away. I just used AI. It was ChatGPT back then. It's Claude now, and said, this is my report. This is what we've written about. Create me a video, no more than 500 characters. Otherwise, I would have had to have paid for the AutoCue app to discuss some of the data within this report and call to action the report at the end. Spat something out at me. Obviously, always go through what AI gives you. Change what you want to change. Make it more your voice. But then I stuck it into the app, click play on it. It was coming down the screen as I was filming myself. Take as many takes as you want. It took me 5 minutes to get the take I wanted. You've got a piece of content there that you can pop out onto your LinkedIn. If you've got a paid team, you can give it to your paid team. They can boost it on LinkedIn. They can do whatever those paid guys do to get that content out there. But I use that as an example, and that's why I say just start doing it. Just give it a go. You might post a video that's taking you 2 minutes on LinkedIn, and it'll get your brand further there than if you hadn't made that video.
Yeah, that's the best advice I can give. I mean, I can't remember how long, it feels like 3-4 years ago now, maybe, I realized that I wanted to start doing more video. I wanted to grow my personal brand. And one of the things I did was I threw myself in the deep end with video. I set myself, I think it was some sort of a New Year's resolution. I think I posted on LinkedIn to announce it and give myself accountability. I said, I'm going to post a video every single weekday for the next 30 days. So I committed to creating a video every day for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. That's bad maths. It's 6. So I created a video every single day for like 6 weeks in a row, and it was pretty amateur. It was just me with my webcam in my bedroom, and I was just looking into the camera, just basically giving a SaaS marketing tip. I think I created it as like a series. I was like, I'm going to give you 30 SaaS marketing tips over the next 30 days. And yeah, I create myself a little script. I don't think I had an auto cue. I think I was just doing take after take to getting it right.
You could remember it.
Yeah, but no, I wasn't. But basically, it taught me it did 2 things. One, it taught me how to do video, like how to write scripts, how to get the equipment, how to edit it, how to publish it. And the other thing it did was it gave me confidence. It was like a speed course. You know, when you learn to drive a car, you kind of got 2 options. You can either do it the sort of traditional way where you get a lesson every week and it'll take you like 20 weeks to pass your test. And then they do that like accelerated version where you do like 3 days of like 8 hours of learning how to drive. I basically did the accelerated version. And it was amazing. It was one of the best things I ever did for my personal brand because I got a half decent amount of engagement. People started to see my face, meaning they recognized me. People started to get value from the videos. And that was kind of, I think, where my personal brand really started to take off. And then I thought, well, that went really well. Now I can invest more. So then I bought a better camera. In the office, I set up a bit of a studio. I employed an editor to do it for me with some nice animations. And then, next thing you know, like 6 months have gone by and we're knocking out really professional, good looking videos now that are getting even more engagement. So what I'm saying is, similar to what you just said, is throwing yourself in the deep end and getting over the cringe factor. Like when I first started doing videos, I remember thinking things like, but what if my ex-girlfriend sees this on on LinkedIn? Or what if some of my mates are connected with me on LinkedIn? Oh no. But yeah, you get over that cringe factor. It can take a little while, but once you're over it, you're flying, and you're just creating so much content. And the power of the personal brand is so important, and video ties in with that hand in hand.
It's important to note as well, you're completely right. And as you get better and bigger, you can create more polished video. But I wouldn't want that to deter anybody from starting. Some of the best performing video content we had at Cognism, so when the paid team were posting these selfie videos out, those videos sometimes would get higher click-through rates on the ads than a more polished video that had gone to a freelance editor, say, and cost hundreds of pounds. It's really easy to just think, oh, why would anyone want to watch that? It's not interesting. It's not polished. But I used to think the same, but just starting and just seeing what happens with it, even if you don't have a paid team to boost your content, the organic element alone is going to benefit you so much more than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I remember speaking to someone recently who used to work for Social Change, Stephen Bartlett's old agency, and they used to do engagement with huge companies like Coca-Cola that would pay him like 50 grand a month to do a load of videos. And he said pretty much every time when we did a really professional shoot and brought in the whole crew and spent like tens of thousands on a video, it often would not perform as well as the just real quick behind the scenes, just selfie camera, which is really encouraging for a lot of small B2B brands, is that you don't have to spend a ton on content for it to perform really well.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap up and summarize, so if you are going to go on this content creation journey, you have to understand your ICP. You have to understand industry, size, job title, location, and also age was an interesting one that we covered today, because that will determine like what type of content they get interested in. Creating entertaining content can do really well at the top of the funnel. I love the suggestion of following and piggybacking off other brands that you see in B2B or TikTok or wherever. That's a great way to give you the blueprint of how to create humorous or entertaining content that is potentially, going to go viral, or certainly viral in respect to your kind of industry. That was a really good takeaway from today. And then video. Video, it can be scary, it can be cringy, but video is one of the best ways to scale a business with great content. I know Cognism have done it well. Rocket SaaS have done it really well with videos. There's lots of great brands that are leaning into that. And if you're not leaning into video, and it's just written content, it can be a bit dry, it can be a bit boring. So video can really make you stand out. So if you've got someone charismatic in the company, then lean on that person. And I know it's hard, particularly when they're the founder, they don't have time to create video and they find it really cringy, but just getting them to invest, to train, to learn how to do video, throw themselves in the deep end like we talked about, the benefits can massively be there. And also, I haven't really talked too much, but it's not that expensive to invest in a podcast studio. We're sat in this podcast studio now. I think it costs about 150 quid for a 90-minute session where we can knock out 2 episodes, and then we'll give these video clips to an editor. Video editing doesn't have to cost a fortune either. And then when you get into that rhythm and you're investing it, it's not thousands, it's hundreds of pounds a month, not thousands. And suddenly, you're getting more video content there, and you're just kind of producing this video content in a rhythm, which is what we're really doing. We haven't even touched on that today in terms of what I think the most powerful thing about content is not the content format. It's not even the quality of the content so much. It's the rhythm and the consistency. So Rocket SaaS have scaled dramatically over the last couple of years. One of the main reasons why is because we are pumping out so much content in consistency. And it's high quality. It wasn't high quality at the beginning, but it's got better and better. There's loads of video, and it's basically every single week we're pumping out multiple pieces of content. Because what's amazing about content is that when you're in a rhythm of creating lots of content, you are going to attract your ICP quickly at some point. A lot of brands only create content once a month. So what if that particular ICP you're going after, what if he or she doesn't find that content interesting? They got to wait a month until they find the next piece interesting, and then another month, and hopefully in month 3 they find that third piece of content interesting. Whereas because we're pumping out content almost on the daily basis, the likelihood that they're going to find a piece of content they find interesting soon just dramatically goes up. So getting into a rhythm would be my biggest piece of advice, rather than focusing too much on content formats and even quality. Just like get it out there and the quality will come. So yeah, hopefully that's a good summary and a few extra bits I've just thrown in at the end there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Sam is going to be back on one of our upcoming future episodes where he's going to be talking about how he audited the Rocket SaaS content marketing engine when he came in. What did he audit? What did he like about the content? What didn't he like? And then he created this whole blueprint, this whole strategy of what we're going to be doing with our content creation moving forward in 2026 and 2027. And you can probably apply some of those learnings from that audit and that strategy. So I really look forward to getting Sam back on the show. But yeah, otherwise, see you next week on the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast.